Welcome to Animania Chronicles, where we dive deep into the captivating worlds of anime, dissecting stories, unraveling characters, and sharing our passion for all things animated. Welcome back to part 2 of our in-depth review of Dororo. In this segment, we're diving deeper into the character development and the emotional journey that makes this series truly unforgettable. We'll explore the complex bond between Hyakkimaru and Dororo, two souls brought together by fate, and how their relationship evolves as they face unimaginable horrors. The soldiers slay the orphans without any mercy. When Dororo arrived, he discovered that all of his friends were dead. The leader wondered if Dororo was one of the spies. He mentioned that Maya was spotted entering the enemy's camp right after leaving them, so he suspected that she was betraying them. Thinking he could save her, Dororo began running to her, but the man caught him and threw him to the ground. However, as the man tried to end Dororo, Hyakkimaru sliced off the man's hand, causing the men to surround him immediately. At that moment, Hyakkimaru realized that Maya was about to die, and the realization sent him into a frenzy. He stabbed the first soldier and began killing the rest of them as anger overtook him, driven by madness and revenge. Seeing this, Dororo remembered Muni's words and feared that Hyakkimaru might become a monster, so he stopped him before he could slay the leader, allowing the man to escape. The leader revealed a pouch, and Dororo told Hyakkimaru that it was filled with rice seeds. He explained that it was Mayo's dream to one day create a rice farm for the children so they could eat properly after the war. None of them had ever eaten anything except burnt rice patties. Dororo told Hyakkimaru to hold on to the pouch and never forget Mio's dream. After hearing those words, Hyakkimaru let out his first word, Mio, and they buried all the bodies before leaving the temple. As they resumed their travels, the only thing they kept hearing was Mio's sweet voice singing, pushing them to keep moving forward in their miserable lives. At night, Dororo tried asking if Hyakkimaru was hungry, but he only held on to the pouch. Before long, Dororo began hearing voices in the forest and thought two lovebirds were probably plotting behind the bushes. Growing angry at the thought, he began hurling stones at the trees, but a basket nearly crushed him. Just then, he noticed a spider before him, and Hyakkimaru rushed up the tree immediately. In an instant, he slashed the webs, causing a man to fall to the ground. But Dororo realized that Hyakkimaru had probably lost his mind as he flew with the monster. Hyakkimaru slashed it instantly, but it cast a web and bound him to a tree before escaping. Later that night, as they spotted a village, Dororo suggested they stay there for the night, and the monster thought it was the best place for her to recover. When they arrived at the village, they discovered that they needed a pass to enter, and a guard told them that a kidnapper was abducting villagers. In the morning, a villager noticed a lady on the roadside, but she pushed him away and pretended to be afraid. Noticing she was sick, he invited her to his home, saying he would offer her some food. However, she thought it was her chance to drain his life force, realizing she could weaken him. At his home, he introduced himself as Yajiro and wondered if she had a name. When she said she didn't, he decided to name her Ohaji. Believing she was hungry, he decided to serve her a bowl of rice, which she found delicious. When he wondered where she was from, she told him to mind his own business and said she would leave once she regained her full strength. Then, he began to leave, saying he would return when it was dark, and she thought he was a mysterious man. At night, when Yajiro arrived home, he noticed that Ohaji's sickness was getting worse and wondered if she hadn't eaten all day. Right then, he spotted a cockroach and decided to release it outside. Seeing this, Ohaji wondered why he spared it. Unlike most humans, he told her that every life was special. His words impressed her, and she told him that she had never met anyone like him. However, as they slept that night, she crawled to his spot and tried to harm him, but discovered that she was actually hungry for food and decided to eat the rest of her meal before going back to bed. She thought he was a special human and wished to know everything about him. The next morning, Dororo was exhausted from scouting the village and wondered where the spider could be hiding. Later that day, Dororo discovered that another villager had gone missing but wondered how it was possible, as there was no sign of any monster. That night, Yajiro realized that Ohaji had gotten even worse and told her that they had no doctors in the village. On top of that, they needed a traveler's pass before she could leave, so he offered to sneak her out. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru and Dororo were chewing on weeds for dinner, and Dororo thought they would definitely starve to death if they continued to stay in the village. At the same time, Yajiro and Ohaji began hurrying to the secret exit, but before long, they came across Hyakkimaru and Dororo. Realizing who they were, Ohaji wondered if they were waiting to slay her, but this only made Dororo realize that she was the spider, and he commanded Hyakkimaru to attack her. However, Yejiro decided to protect her, saying that he was actually the kidnapper. Just then, the guards appeared and threatened to execute Yejiro for sneaking people out of the village. Dororo tried to say that he found Yejiro first and deserved the reward, but the leader revealed that there was never a reward in the first place and that it was merely a scam to make people confess. As he commanded his men to capture them, Ohaji bound the men with her webs and consumed their life force immediately. Just as Hyakkimaru sensed her red soul glowing again, he drew his sword and tried to attack her, but she bound him with her cloak and ran away with Yejiro. As Dororo freed him, Hyakkimaru ran after them, and a guard called for the others with a whistle. Eager to escape, Ohaji cast a web to the top of the mountain and pulled them up. As Yejiro realized she had regained her strength, he began saying that he was probably useless to her now, but she told him that she wanted him by her side forever. Yejiro wondered if she killed humans after draining their life force, but she told him that she always spared their lives but continued to suck their life force every single time. This was all Yejiro wanted to hear, so he offered himself to her because he was tired of his lonely life anyway. Eventually, they arrived at a secret cave, and Yejiro told her to find her way to the exit, but she suggested that they escape together. After all, his identity was exposed, and she thought he would never be safe here. However, just as he'd agreed, arrows pierced his body, and Ohaji realized that the soldiers had found them. As she grew angry, she canceled the arrows and bound the men immediately, draining their life force. At that moment, she transformed into the spider and captured the others, but Hyakkimaru cut her web and sliced off her leg. She knocked him away and told Yejiro that she would not abandon him. However, when Hyakkimaru was unwilling to allow her to escape, Yejiro asked him to spare her life and said that he wanted to stay with her forever. So, Hyakkimaru decided to leave her alone. The next day, they continued their travel, and Dororo noticed that Hyakkimaru was starting to smile. A few days later, Dororo began wondering why Hyakkimaru was not talking to him since he had already regained the ability to speak. As they noticed some weird-looking people carrying the girl to the top of the mountain, Dororo thought it was probably a bridal parade, but wondered why the bride was sad. Just then, a boy slid down the mountain, hoping to stop the group, but the wind blew his arrow away before he could fire another one. Dororo stopped him, saying that he would not allow him to harm the beautiful bride. However, the boy thought he was clueless and told him that the girl was his sister but was being married off to a monster. As he tried leaving, Dororo offered to support him, saying that Hyakkimaru could defeat any monster. Before long, they arrived at the top of the mountain, and the boy Saru revealed a dark mysterious cloud over their village. He said that the monster was called the Nakasero and that it appeared almost every day to devour the villagers. To save their own lives, the villagers began offering a girl to the demon and managed to keep the village safe. However, Dororo thought it made no sense and wondered why girls were specifically being offered to the monster, but even Saru had no idea. Thinking he could scam Saru, Dororo offered to rescue her but said that it wouldn't be for free. So Saru decided to pay him with worms and a tiny piece of gold. Realizing he could probably sell it, Dororo agreed to help him and Saru introduced himself. A few hours later, when the other villagers had returned, Dororo and Saru knocked out the guards, and Saru decided to free his sister Ginny. However, his sister told him that she could not leave the mountain because she was afraid that the demon would devour the entire village in her place. Saru tried telling her to save her own life, but she told him that her life was far less important than everyone else's. Just then, Dororo began telling her that they would slay the monster, and Hyakkimaru drew his sword to prove he was ready. At that moment, the dark cloud began rising toward them, and the guards were terrified. In an instant, they were sucked into the clouds, and their devoured bodies were dumped to the ground. As they heard a roar, Dororo tried telling Hyakkimaru that the demon was inside the clouds, but his vision was surrounded by a wall of evil flame. Before they knew it, a monstrous centipede descended from the clouds, looking to devour Saru, but Ginny pushed him out of the way and was swallowed in his place. At the sight of the huge monster, Dororo wondered if they even stood a chance. However, as it returned, Dororo tried warning Hyakkimaru, but he still could not see anything. Luckily, heated water sprang out of a geyser and revealed a ray of light in the darkness, scaring off the demon, and the dark clouds vanished instantly. However, Saru was sad, realizing that his sister was killed and that he would never see her again. So, Dororo decided to follow him home, but realized he was living in the mountains. Saru told him that he lives on his own. As they wondered how they could avenge her, Dororo said that he had just the perfect plan, but revealed that Hyakkimaru was probably useless at this point. At that moment, they realized that the cloud had expanded and ashes began falling from the sky. As they discovered it was the skin from the centipede, they realized that it was growing even bigger in size. Seeing how massive it was, Saru thought they couldn't possibly stand a chance, but Dororo revealed that sunlight was its weakness. The following day, Dororo pretended to be a new bride and successfully lured out the monster. Immediately, he started running away, and as he dodged the centipede, he jumped into a hole, but emerged outside to draw its attention and started running away again. However, as he slipped, the monster tried devouring him, but he luckily made it into the hole. At the same time, Saru was waiting on the mountain, and just as he spotted the monster, he launched a flaming arrow at the geyser, causing it to erupt into a mighty explosion, burning up the monster. However, just before the sun appeared, it quenched the fire and released more fumes to cloud the area before rising high for the kill. At that moment, Hyakkimaru drew its attention with a rock and launched his arrow at the monster. As he fired another and a third arrow, he rushed at it and slashed its face, causing it to crash. However, it was still alive, and he narrowly dodged its tentacle before getting knocked away. Dororo realized he could draw Hyakkimaru's attention toward the monster, so he jumped down the mountain, landing on top of it, and screamed at Hyakkimaru to follow the sound of his voice. As the monster hurried away, crashing through a rock, a stone knocked Dororo unconscious. Just then, Hyakkimaru began screaming, desperate to draw its attention, but was knocked away. Even so, he continued screaming and managed to stop the demon before it devoured him. As he took the onslaught, the beast threw him high into the sky, but Dororo directed him with his voice, and he pierced its eye, forcing it to emerge from the clouds. The sunlight began molting its skin. Right then, Hyakkimaru jumped inside its mouth and ripped it in half instantly, causing it to vanish. With the monster slain, Dororo was happy to have survived the battle. As they fell into a river, a few moments later, Saru spotted Genie inside the water and realized that she was still alive, so he was happy to be reunited with her. Right then, Hyakkimaru began to groan, and his fake nose fell into the water, allowing a real nose to grow in its place. A few minutes later, as Saru gave Dororo the remaining gold he promised, Dororo realized that it was a rotten piece of food and wondered how they would survive on this. But Ginny decided to thank him with a flower. As they began leaving the mountain, Hyakkimaru smelled the flower and said Dororo's name for the first time. When he heard that, Dororo realized Hyakkimaru was starting to regain his full humanity. Later that day, as Hyakkimaru sniffed the flower, he decided to smell Dororo's face, but Dororo pushed him away and fell from exhaustion. As he tried to stand, he fell again, and Hyakkimaru realized that something was definitely wrong with him, so he carried him to a nearby village and tried asking for help from a farmer, but the man ignored him. As they met another man, Dororo tried telling him that Hyakkimaru was really sick, but the man told him that he's not a doctor and decided to leave. Having nowhere else to go, Hyakkimaru left him on the ground, and Dororo remembered that this was exactly how his mother died. Luckily, a woman found them and decided to take them home. As Dororo regained consciousness, he thought Hyakkimaru must have abandoned him and tried to leave, but she managed to calm him down. Just then, she realized that Dororo was actually a girl. When she noticed the Manaji flower, Dororo revealed that it reminded her of her parents, and this made her sad. 6 years ago, her father was the leader of a group of warriors who fought to eliminate the samurai for destroying their village during the war, but was led into a trap by her evil uncle to kill all of them. With all his men dead, one of the soldiers stabbed her father from the back, but he took the soldier with him to the afterlife, and they watched as the village burned before them. Being the only two surviving members, her mother began caring for Dororo on her own, but as they traveled for weeks without any food, her mother passed out in a field full of Manaji flowers. She begged Dororo to be strong and to survive until the war was over, so her words inspired Dororo to survive. She told the woman that she would never give up. As the woman wondered how the girl traveled for weeks without any proper food, she told Hyakkimaru that his companion was actually a girl. A few days later, as they began to leave the village, Dora wondered if Hyakkimaru had discovered that she was a girl, but he merely ignored her. In secret, at Dago's village, a messenger began telling him that his abandoned baby may have survived and that a commander in their army was attacked by a mysterious man with prosthetic arms. That's it for today. Stay tuned for part 3 of our Dororo review series. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the vast realms of anime. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay tuned for more thrilling reviews and discussions. Until next time, keep exploring the boundless wonders of anime with us.